Now the Sunday is here with us again, and it's time for us to talk everything that has to do with the building construction industry, including finding ways and means of financing your home, to put a roof over your head. It's one of the most important things that a human being ought to have, if you ask me. And it goes without saying that food, shelter, and clothing are the three most important pillars really for the existence of man. And you're welcome once again to the Homeowners Show. I'm glad to be here once again to steer affairs, and today's topic I'll be revealing to you in a second. But the Homeowners Show right here on Metro TV every Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. is brought to you by kind courtesy of the First National Bank Ghana. How can we help you? And supported by CBC Properties. CBC Properties, your home of affordable lands and properties. So for the next 1 hour, we'll be talking about this particular space. I'll be telling you about what we got to do this afternoon. I'll be introducing my guest to you also in a second. But let's step out for a quick break. We'll be right back. So welcome back from the break, and it's the Homeowners Show, as I earlier introduced you. And if you just joined us, this is your favorite building construction industry program right here on Metro TV every Sunday afternoon. Now, the Homeowners Show is proudly brought to you by First National Bank Ghana. First National Bank, how can we help you? And is also ably supported by CBC Properties. CBC Properties, your home of affordable lands and properties. Major enterprise, if it's not quality, it's not major. And Sub-Saharan fashion, great shirts for men with integrity. Business and Financial Times, Ghana's most outstanding business newspaper, and the Construction TV Online, best in building and construction news online. So what are we discussing this afternoon? And World Habitat Day fell on the 3rd of October. And this year's theme locally is Housing for All, a better urban future. And to help me discuss that this afternoon with me, to my immediate left, we have Mr. Frederick Opoku, Secretary General of the National Tenants Union of Ghana. You are welcome, sir.
Fine, thank you.
We're glad to have you here. And next is Prince Nketia, a representative of GREPA. GREPA is the Ghana Real Estate Professionals Association, and he is also representing that association to help us discuss this interesting topic and how important it is on such a day. So you are both welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Fantastic. So let's start off. On a day where we are celebrating what? Housing for all. I mean, we all know the huge housing deficit we have in this country. How significant is this celebration, and why should we take notice of it at all? Let me first of all come to you, Prince.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to you and your viewers. I must say, the celebration of World Habitat Day is very significant for us as Ghanaians, for the entire world. Reason being that one of the key things that we've been hit with in this year has to do with the COVID-19, the conflict in Ukraine, and also the issue of climate change. These are things that have impacted us significantly. If I say it has impacted us in the area of increasing the inequality and the vulnerabilities in the world. This has significantly made a lot of people poor. It has rendered several people poor. And because of this, it is key for us to use this day to highlight the negative effects of the 3 C's, that is COVID-19, climate change, and then conflict, and how the impact of this has had as far as the increasing housing crisis is concerned. Secondly, it's an opportunity for us to reflect on how well we are doing as far as the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals are concerned. You would agree with me that sustainable urbanization is one of the key drivers in achieving sustainable development goals. So if you look at this year's celebration, for instance, on the 3rd of October, the government launched the report on the new urban development from the UN. And this report actually highlighted how far we've come so far as a country, as far as implementation of the new urban development from the UN is concerned. So to me, I think it's very important we celebrate this day. Thank you.
Fantastic. And I would want to pose the same question to you, Mr. Opoku. I mean, how significant is, I mean, especially in this part of the world, we are noted for celebrating things. Sometimes somebody would argue that we do lots of celebrations, but really nothing substantial or anything of substance to really mark those days. How significant is this celebration?
Very well. Let me take this opportunity to greet your viewers. But I don't know why I'm short of words. Okay. Why am I saying so? The theme is a clarion call for governments all over the world. And it recognizes the importance of housing as a basic human right. That if you can have a sustainable urban cities that everybody will be happy to stay in, there must be equality and fairness for all. Meaning that housing is not a commodity. You can't treat housing as a commodity. Housing is a very vital thing that every human being must have access to. So if you want to even narrow it down and come back to Ghana, I would say, as I stand in for a number of millions of tenants in this country, it's very clear that it is reminding our government to be very open to how they deal with housing. And I know as they celebrated it, they will understand, considering the deficits that we have in this country. The 2020 population and housing census places at 1.8 million, that we still have about 1.8 million housing deficits units. So if you want to do by rooms and everything and want to do some extrapolations, you could see it's not easy at all. And it reminds our governments that they are failing in the area of housing, so they must wake up. It is a clarion call that if you want to have a sustainable city, shelter is a very basic human need, that you cannot be asking for everything in this world if you want to ignore food, health, and shelter, no matter how. But the question is our government doing this? Are they paying attention to housing? That's what the theme is reminding them of. Simple as that.
I mean, looking at the theme, housing for all, a better urban future. I mean, you made a point about sustainability.
Yes.
And looking at that and probably how we approach housing construction in this country, and whether even our laws really help us to streamline things, as it were, building the right way, sustainable green cities. I mean, people are thinking of the future at the moment. What have you got to say about that? Is this country doing its bit along those lines? Honestly,
I'm sorry to say this, but I need to say it and to remind our governments, because I sit here and speak for not less than 18 million tenants in this country. The voice of tenants is the voice of the National Tenant Union of Ghana. And that it is regrettable to see our government day in and day out not trying to be responsible in these lines. The thing is housing. Is housing taken seriously by our government? Come and gone. That's the question we must ask ourselves. And we talk about greening and not greening or what have you. Before you can even narrow to greening, the whole setup of housing, how is this accepted by the government of the country? It is not. So I don't want to be quick to say, okay, if they have a plan, do they even have a plan at all? They don't. They don't. They don't. Government don't have a plan that they really want to implement. 8 years now, if you ask MPP as a party, which has been in power, what is their plan for housing? Mr. Senso and President Akufo-Addo should be answering these questions now. That your citizenry have issues with where they have to lay their heads, and that is not an important thing to you as a government. Then what is the essence of this government?
It's a worrying thing. I mean, talking about the huge housing deficits that we have, and I'm sure that in his earlier submission, talking about sustainability and then affordability, those are closely linked. I mean, how should we be looking at housing in this country? I mean, affordability. He represents, I'll be coming back to you to talk about tenants and how the suffering under the current trends that we have in the country and that we have, where people are paying hundreds of thousands of cedis for almost nothing, you understand? So how are we supposed to approach this really as a country?
Okay, from
I'm looking at sustainability, and we're talking about future. People are building eco-friendly cities, very smart cities, green cities, and then you're also thinking of affordability, how the masses can also have access to housing out there, because that should be a general worry for any leadership of any kind. Yes.
Okay, so from where I sit, it is true that if you look at what is happening in this country right now, it's a worrying situation, because you would agree with me that the opportunities we have are usually concentrated in the urban centers. So this fuels the rural-urban migration to a very significant extent. So you have everybody moving from, I mean, their hometowns wanting to come to Accra or Kumasi, because that is where the opportunities are. And this actually goes a long way to make the urban cities become very choked. And it was reported in the media recently that the Greater Accra Regional Minister was saying that they are having issues even finding a site for Agenda 111 project. That should tell you how difficult it is to even get a place that you can call your own to put up your house in Accra. To be able to solve this, to me, I think it's about time our government starts thinking of issues of creating new settlements in the surrounding areas, because if you go to areas after Nsawam, at the Ebri Mountain, Ekropon area, you find vast lands there which are not used. These lands are usually used as farming lands and all that, which can equally be used as settlement. And the government can actually enhance or empower the private sector, organizations and stuff like that, who would want to move to these areas, can entice them with issues about giving them some tax reliefs.
Okay.
And this will be something that will attract these companies to set up offices in these places. The government can also help to create the road networks in these areas, and also help in electrification in these areas. And this is something that can actually entice investors to move to these areas where we can create new settlements. If you look at Nigeria, for instance, look at a place like Lagos, the Victoria Island, for instance, is something that wasn't there in the past. You see, now it has become a hot cake that everybody wants to move to these new settlements. So to me, I think it's about time our government starts looking at things like this, which can release the burden or the pressure on the urban centers like Accra. Okay.
I mean, it's worrying, like he's talking about, lots of people moving from the rural areas into the urban centers and slums being created all over. I mean, it's general chaos. And some of the repercussions are the floods that we're experiencing, because buildings are just springing up anywhere, anyhow. Nothing really informing the way development really should go. We have everything on paper, but nothing really is really enforced, really, so to speak.
Let me go back. That I said, first of all, Ghana as a country doesn't have any plan in terms of has no roadmap, not at all. I am challenging this government. I am challenging Minister Senso-Boakye to come out with a clear plan, what they want to do, what they said they will do, and what they have not done not. Now, it took us 40 years to have a national housing policy. 40 good years, 4 decades, which came into being 2015 under John Mohammed's government. If you go into this policy, it tells you the roadmap, what must be done. What must be done. 6 years into MPP's government as a party, what have they done? Have they touched that document at all? Or they have left it in abeyance? That's what I'm saying, that it's a government that does not have the people at heart. If a government, I'm very hard on them because I can't put the blame on anybody, like the policymaker. And they made some pledges in terms of housing. That's why I'm reminding them that we have a national housing policy for this country. Let's assume from Gordonsburg time, from Nkrumah's time, from Buzier's time, we have different types of kind of documents. It took us from there 4 decades to come out to say, okay, now stakeholders have sat. We have come out with a plan called a national housing policy. In this policy, it gives you the roadmap. Do A, do B, involve this, do this, create this, and what have you, and you get here. And government comes, and government is not even taking that document to work with. Then it tells you that we are not going anywhere. It began much I talk about nothing. You see a lot of forum here and there, watching what have you. But it comes to the point that there is no plan. Now, you were talking about affordability, right?
Yeah.
If you would allow me to link it somewhere. If you say affordability, what does it mean to say affordability? The word affordability from us as union,
yes,
we see it as what? As a relative statement. If you say affordable, or haven't you heard them talk about affordable housing?
Yeah.
What does it mean to say affordable housing? You see, we have a class of people in society, especially in Ghana.
Yeah.
They fall within that affordability. If you take a country that invests the taxpayers' money into building houses or homes, then say, okay, we say it's affordable when we place the amounts per one standard bedroom at 90,000 Ghana cedis or 99,000 Ghana cedis. When 2 standard bedroom goes for 180,000 cedis, 1.8 billion, then 3 standard bedroom go for 340,000. That is 3.4 billion. And this the same people will sit on television, take time with a minister working, going to watch, say that, okay, we have affordable housing. That is palpable lies and deceit.
And how many people can be able to...
It means that they are not for the poor. They have a category of people. What about our mothers who are selling tomatoes? Let's put that one aside. We have rules of the game.
Yeah.
We have a rent law, right? Yeah. If you come to the government not being able to even to build, we expect the government, as it were, to make sure that they apply and make the law enforceable. We have a Rent Act that came into being 60 years ago. 1963 or so. Act 220.
Yeah.
It spells clearly that those who cannot build, like some of us, we are fronting, we can't build. We don't have the money to build. More than, as active population, more than 20 million Ghanaians cannot build. Yeah. Therefore,
that's a huge percentage.
That law must protect them.
Yeah.
And it's the responsibility of every government to make sure that that law is enforceable until it's repealed. If you know there are some inconsistencies, get it worked out. Now, the law, if you go to section 25, subsection 5, that's where we, tenant union, are very much
interested, yeah.
That it is illegal. It is offensive. And the law will go against any landlord who makes an attempt in terms of short tenancy, taking 6 months rent advance. You have a rent control, that is the mandatory body responsible to apply the law. And they are relegated to certain disputes and not ensuring that how much, is a rent control, there's a ceiling.
Yeah.
Above amount, no amount to be charged. Right. And we have an institution under government. We are an institution, agency that is working under the Ministry of Housing that has been palpably irresponsible, toothless. They can't bite. I always make that statement. Why? Because the law says that before even a landlord even advances to lease his house, the landlord must go to rent control and they must apply. How many landlords does that? And in any case, if they even flout it and they come to you, are you supposed to receive them?
No.
Hey, they have breached the law. You know, like the landlord has breached the law. Why do you entertain the landlord in the face? Because we are talking about settlement of disputes.
So there should be some.
So now, this government and government come and gone. I will not blame this government.
Yeah.
They are all responsible. Liable. Are you okay?
Yeah.
There's a rent law. The rent law is not working put it aside. We have national housing policy. It has not been used. It is done somewhere. Then you can't talk about mortgages. How many people can take mortgage? They come and sit here and be talking about mortgage. Ask yourself, how many percentage Ghanaians can afford mortgage? The word mortgage, the interest, who and who? Almost about 2%. You leave the 98%, and whenever you bring a policy or intervention, you talk about mortgages. Whereas you are not allowing the people. So it means housing, if you look at the term, the theme rather, it's a housing for all.
Housing for all.
Better what?
A better urban future.
So housing for all means what? And you are not making the platform equal for everyone to own it.
The majority.
So it means that it's a clarion call to government. And okay, they should stop the theatricals, the theater works, and I'm trying to tickle themselves to laugh.
You know, something that baffles me. You mentioned 60 years, right? The rent law. Why? Why? I mean, I'm just trying to fathom why, over so many years, subsequent governments have failed to really make it work. What really
First of all, we allude that since it came into being, it has outlived its what? Usefulness.
Usefulness, yes.
It needs to be reviewed. It has taken a decade for NDC and this MPP government to consider either to review it or not. That's the problem. So if they are not interested about housing, would they have the passion? Oh, let's go and pass this tax. They will marshal their parliamentarians and go and pass it. But housing, it's not their matter. Because parliamentarians are giving 4 years rent advance, $50,000 or $60,000. They are sitting down there from Speaker of Parliament to the last person of Parliament. They are giving rent advance, which is against the law.
I get you. I'll get back to you in a second. But I mean, honestly, even if you are enjoying something like that, you still want to make sure that the majority also are comfortable in such a setting. But earlier, Prince, you talked about the 3 C's and COVID-19, climate change, and then conflict. I just want you to explain a bit further. How has it really impacted housing for that matter, and moving forward, what can really be done, especially in our case as Ghana, to, for want of a better word, salvage the little that we have left?
Okay, so if you look at the effect of the 3 C's, there's this report, what we call UN Habitat Cities, World Cities Report. According to that report, in the year 2020, about 119 to 124 million people were rendered poor because of the effects of these 3 C's. Fast forward in the year 2021, between 143 to 163 million people were rendered poor because of the effect of these. And because most people are rendered poor, it has gone a long way to affect the housing deficit and the housing crisis.
Yeah. Because
now, if you look at, let's say, if you take Accra, for instance, even to be able to acquire a plot of land, it costs so much. Yeah. You see, because of the effect of COVID-19, people have lost their jobs. You know, now you know what is happening as far as fuel is concerned and all that. So the hardship is overwhelming, and it has rendered many people poor. And because of that, they are unable to put up a place for themselves. So now it has become a national security issue. So it's something that must be tackled with all seriousness. As my brother said, the government is doing next to nothing as far as addressing the housing challenges in this country is concerned. So to me, I think it's about time we put, all seriousness and make sure we do the needful to address this challenge some way, somehow.
I mean, talking about incentives, incentivizing people who can be encouraged, first of all, companies, the private sector, to invest in new settlements, etc. Government can also do that, right? What are some of, you talked about incentives for people to move into such areas and also for companies to invest in such areas. What are some of the practical incentives that can be given or made to encourage people to move into such areas? Let me take that question and then I'll put the same question to Mr. Opoku.
Okay. So we can have a place whereby maybe companies that are into manufacturing, they will set up their manufacturing plants there. And because they have their manufacturing plants there, the workers who work for these organizations can settle within these localities, okay? And then the government can also, as I said, the government can help by constructing roads, motorable roads in these areas, bringing electrification to these areas. Also reducing taxes for organizations that will be willing to move to these areas. Okay, because now there are a lot of people living at Kaswa, Sawam, who have their offices in, let's say, Osu and places like that. They have to commute for long hours, morning and evening, before they get to work, and also before they get to the house after close of day's work. This actually affects productivity significantly. Also, look at the cost burden that is placed on these people. It's quite significant and quite huge. And I mean, if we are able to think through about this new settlement in these areas, the burden that is placed on these people to commute all the way from these places, from the outskirts, before they get to the city center where their offices are, this thing will become a thing of the past. And it can enhance productivity. The people can also build their houses, because if they can get plots in these areas at a very affordable price, they will be able to put up their houses, and they can also have peace of mind without having to struggle to pay huge amount of rent within the city center, which doesn't augur well for anyone.
All right. I mean, I'm very interested in the point you made about transportation, good motorable roads to the areas and things like that. You know, there's a huge burden also of expenditure on people who potentially move into such areas, because almost everything is centered in the urban centers or in the city centers. So transportation is also a burden. I mean, Mr. Opoku, are there any other incentives that you can think about? And probably one thing that is also here niggling at the back of my mind is probably, apart from maybe moving into such areas, creating these new settlements, have we also looked at the style, the way we build in this country? For example, I mean, if we can have huge high-rise flats where you can have a lot more people occupy, say, some amount of space, square meters, instead of just, you know, building laterally, I mean.
It has become evidently clear, and I have had a lot of engagements on many platforms with Greda and some of them. And the issue of the builders are very simple. It has become clear that government, as a government, is not interested in building itself. Not at all. They are not interested. They prefer supporting the private sector to build more. And as you rightly put it, incentives. Are we not sure that government has land banks? Go ask land banks. Government come and tell us how many land that they have saved there, sitting down there, nothing. That they have been promising that they will lease it to the builders and somehow help them to, you know, build the infrastructure on the land, you know, prepare it for them. If you ask any real estate or developer or anybody who builds, he'll ask you that what is the cost, the percentage of cost. That's when he's putting up a building. The cost here is about the land.
Yes.
It's about servicing the land and what have you. So government is a government. If you cannot build, the biggest incentives that you can give to the builders to increase it is what? Is to support them and try to just go to the land, do what must be done, lighting, electricity, right? Water. Go and do for them, and that will take about 45–50% of the cost. You don't do it that one too. And they have been lamenting here and there. So what is the essence of this government? What are they doing? If where your people have to sleep, you care less about it, then you look at trivial issues. For example, they are there, builders are ready. Greda, I know, they are listening to me. Listen to us, rather. They need government to say, government, we have this 1,000 or 2,000 acres of land here. We are going to service it. Come in agreement with us. Do this, and that costs about 50%. We will bring our cash and come and build it, and it will be easy for everybody to have an access. That is the approach. When government gives, we can see the theme that is there. I want to link it to a theme that we are talking about here.
Yeah.
What's the theme? Can you give it to me again?
Housing for all, a better urban future.
So what is the government's role? Your role is to give incentives. If you cannot build, if everybody should have opportunity to have a place to lay their head. Every government that sees accommodation or where their citizenry will lay their head, which is a basic necessity that you cannot even run away from. Fine, it is not government responsibility to go and build a house that go and sleep in, but give them the enabling environment for people who, or the builders, have access to build and go and do that. So if you cannot build, you can't give incentives. You promise here and there, every now and then, you come and make U-turn. come and give stories, and your year times and you go. So I know this year, going to 2024, is going to be housing manifesto topic that we are going to do. So.
I mean, what in your opinion are some of the factors, really? I mean, looking based on all that you've said,
yes.
What are the factors impeding the program of prioritizing this crisis? I mean, because it is a crisis, I mean, in this country, housing crisis.
They see it as a crisis. They don't have, they are not putting any measures to mitigate it.
Yeah.
That's my problem. Because it's a fact that it is not today that we have talked about deficits. It is not today.
Yeah.
Let's go and check our books. When did we say deficit?
Yeah.
What did they do about it?
Okay.
If you go to Segleme, when a government attempted to build 1,500, it is now languishing in bush. Ayakufo-Addo is aware. They will go and talk about it is now in court, hiding behind legality. Why Ghanaians are suffering, don't have a place to lay their head. You see, Mr. Senso Boakye will talk about it is in court and now run away because of court. Meanwhile, the amount of money that government secured, $200 million US, the time limit, it has matured. And Ghanaians are paying interest on the $2 million, and the thing is still languishing in bush while we are using our taxpayer to pay this. What kind of negligence is this?
Kindly hold your thought on that. We'll be coming back to delve a bit more into this. But when we come back, I also want to find out from you whether there's any really hope for us at all. I mean, looking at the pace at which we're approaching in solving some of these problems, whether really there's any hope for us, having in mind the theme we have for the celebration of the World Habitat Day. Well, you're watching the Homeowners Show right here on Metro TV. We're going to go for a quick break. We'll be right back to continue. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. You're watching the Homeowners Show, brought to you by the First National Bank Ghana. First National Bank, how can we help you? And supported by CBC Properties, your home of affordable lands and properties. Major enterprise, if it's not quality, it's not major. And Sub-Saharan fashion, great shirts for men with integrity. Business and Financial Times, Ghana's most outstanding business newspaper, and Construction TV Online, best in building and construction news online. So we've been talking about the World Habitat Day celebrations with the local team, Housing for All, a better urban future. And of course, all of us have an interest in this, no matter what. But there's a greater percentage of people out there who really are without a roof over their heads, or own one that they can call their very own. Well, coming back to you, Prince. Prince is the representative of the Ghana Real Estate Professionals Association, GRIPA, and next to me is Mr. Frederick Opoku, Secretary General of the National Tenants Union of Ghana, and they have been helping me dissect a few questions over here. Just before we went for the break, Prince, I was talking about the fact that, I was asking whether there's any hope really for us as a country, looking at the pace at which we are trying to address this issue that we have. It's a big issue. So many people, you drive around town, you don't have to go around even at night anymore. Even during the day, you see people in slums, kiosks, all kinds of structures all over, slum-like areas springing up everywhere. How do we solve this crisis? Is there any hope at all?
Thank you very much. In terms of whether or not, there is hope.
Yeah.
Yes. Say yes, because as my brother was saying, the government has done a lot of, lip service in the past as far as addressing the housing crisis is concerned. If you look at the celebration this year of the World Habitat Day, the report on the new urban agenda was launched by the government of Ghana. And in this report, so far, what they've been able to do, and it was shameful to find out that we still have 1.8 million, anything good to write home about. Okay, But to me, I think the pace at which we are moving is very slow, and there is no proper structure. There is no, you can't really see, the desire to be able to solve this problem. Okay, in terms of what can be done to be able to solve this issue, I think I first of all talked about the settlement, agenda. Then also, instead of concentrating everything in Accra, I think it's about time some of the other regions also get the headquarters of some of these agencies, because all these things contribute to the rural-urban migration. Okay, and also it's about time the government partner with the private sector in terms of building affordable housing projects. If you leave it to the hands of the government alone, usually after building these projects, they end up giving it to party people who even have the wherewithal to afford their own place of abode.
Yeah.
Okay, the poor people or the people who are really in need, for whose reason these houses were put up, end up not benefiting from it in any way. And when you leave it in the hands of the private sector alone, at the end of the day, when they finish putting up everything, they are going to use, quote some astronomical prices, which wouldn't augur well for anyone.
Thinking of profit.
Yes, but then in an instance whereby the government provides the lands and certain benefits or certain incentives to the private sector for them also to come in with their materials and their workforce to put up these houses, both of them will sit and then make sure that the prices at which these houses are sold will be competitive, and it will be given to the people who really need it, but wouldn't be given to party people. Okay, and one last thing I can say is that I think we can also engage the donor partners and then NGOs, because elsewhere in other countries, other developing countries, some NGOs are actually helping to put up affordable housing projects, and I think the government can also tap into some of these things, which will go a long way to help. But one more thing I would like to say is that if now the status quo remain as it is, and you put up houses in places like, let's say in Sawam, which is affordable for people, and you don't end up creating employment in these areas, people would end up commuting from these places back to the city center, and at the end of the day, it's cost 90. You don't solve anything. So in as much as you are thinking of building houses in these areas or releasing lands in these outskirts to have these projects done, you should also think of creating social amenities like having some of these malls being sited in these areas, so that instead of people coming all the way to the city centers, they will have everything they need there without the need to still stress themselves coming to the city centers.
It's amazing. Everything is so interconnected, and it's really a worry when you think about the whole thing, right? And that's why I asked you the question whether there's any hope really in solving this problem. But yeah, I'm sure that viewers, you've been listening to us talk about this over the last 40 minutes or so. I'm sure that you have your questions. The phone lines are open. You can call in and ask a question, or probably send forth text messages, and our guest here, I'm sure, will try to answer those questions for you. But Mr. Opoku, I know that the NPP government in their 2020 manifesto campaign promise, as usual, promised to set up what they call the National Rental Assistance Scheme. Is your outfit aware of anything like that?
Host. It's not easy.
I know it's not easy.
See, I have to speak to it because I am on behalf of tenants in this country, numbering 18 million. So we are very much disappointed, highly disappointed in Akufo-Addo's government in terms of housing. So appalling, so poor, so, I don't know how to describe it. It's like it's become a norm where political parties come out with a manifesto and they just want to see it as just a manifesto. After all, we just say to convince people, to deceive people. It's a deceit, and that is criminal.
What did they really seek to do with this assistance scheme?
What they sought to do was that, fine, as government, that we need second term. We have realized that housing is becoming an issue. So for us as MPP, we can't build. We cannot. The time is too short. But at least, we will make sure that the young guys, young men, who have just left school, young people who are working, at least, we will give them some incentive, okay, some soft loan, and that they would devote 100 million Ghana cedis as a seed capital, and they will now contact some financial institutions and grow it, so that at least if you need a loan, they will give you a loan, a soft one, so that they will pay directly to the landlord. In any case, that one too is negative. That's a lazy check approach to solving issues. A government that talks about we want to give you loan to go and borrow money to go and rent, is laziness, lazy approach. That category. In any case, though it is lazy approach, they have even failed to even execute it. 2020, they made a promise, MPP, Akufo-Addo government, that, okay, we will give this one to you. When the 2021 budget,
yes,
when they read the budget, then it was read by Honorable Chairman Sabonsu. Is that not so?
Yes.
When Honorable Finance Minister was not well, it came to Parliament that, oh, 2021, we are going to give the money. We are here 2022 ending, and they are still deceiving us. So it means that it was just a rhetoric. MPP government didn't mean that National Housing Assistance Scheme. And we have asked NAMA with that time, where are we? They say that it's in the process. A government that even made a pledge that I will do this when I come to power, when you give me the mandate. Based on this, many young people went and voted and gave you the mandate. You came, and 2 years down the lane, you decided not to do it, because after all, it's not everything that you can do. So you now package, it's not everything that we can do under the housing. Meanwhile, you came, not even one room that you have built for any poor man to enjoy. The one that was left in the bush, somewhere, is it 20, whatever, John Mohammed's time.
Yeah, it's quite some time.
Segleme.
Yeah.
You came back and you said, okay, that went to the escort. There will be some more visitors. People have squandered money, right? So we want the law to play its course and arrest them. If people have spent money and you want to punish them, what are you supposed to do? You must let the law work. And as the law is working, you go and complete it. You don't allow the thing to be in the bush. They come and tell Ghanaians that people spent money. Collins, what's the name? Collins Dauda. So it's in court. So I don't want to touch about the substance of the matter in court. But I'm dangling around it to say, no matter the gravity of the situation, MPP government does not have any right to say that we are in court. So 8 years, let us go and finish. That is laziness. That is wickedness. That is cruelty to the highest degree, that you are taking Ghanaians for granted. And MPP government must understand that if they do not make an attempt to complete the settlement and release it, it is going to be shocking.
And probably other
because, Katahene, you came to promise National Housing Assistance Scheme. And is it any time you want to come and deceive Ghanaians? Because you see Ghanaians are so cheap, short memory. Then another government will come and promise again. And we are going to hold them. In fact, we did a press conference. What pains me most is
your association.
I'm telling you, I can go back and Google.
Okay.
Tenant Union support MPP Housing Manifesto.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Opoku,
Yes.
can you hold your thought there? I believe that as we've opened the phone lines, viewers are also eager to join the conversation. I believe that Bismarck from Dansoman is on the line. Bismarck?
Yes, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Bismarck. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to find out something, and it's a contribution.
Okay.
You see, the affordable houses that they have at Segleme, they said it's a new site that they are putting, a new town that they are putting up on their own. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can you go over it again?
Yeah, they said Segleme project is a new project that they are doing, a new community that they are creating on their own. But I believe that this project is meant for Greater Accra. I think government and our leaders should have thought of it. This project meant for Accra. They should have spread the program for in Accra, Greater Accra, like Korle Bu like this. Korle Bu is having land which can accommodate like 20 unit blocks, which can cater for the staff. It can be sent to whereby when they put it at Korle Bu, it shouldn't be meant for only Korle Bu staff. Police are there, Korle Bu's police are there, teachers are there, other public servants are there, that they can give this project to them to occupy. Now, I could also say something in Togo like this. When they are putting up, land are being owned by the states. So they have every project, like they have demarcated the places down. Some this planting for trees. planting for tree planting. They use this tree planting to demarcate roads and other things down. You take, for instance, the 110 hospitals that the government is putting up now. When you check this project that they are putting up, they don't even think of accommodation for the staff who will be staying there to work there.
Yeah,
these are some of the things that they have to factor into those things.
You're right. You're right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your contribution, and we've taken note of your input. Well, before probably maybe you make any comments about what he just said, some messages have also come through. There's Dennis Boache, and he's also says he's watching from Spintex. He says, I should ask GREPA whether you have any plans. What are you doing to help young people acquire their own homes? I don't know whether you have a role to play along those lines, but the Ghana Real Estate Professional Association. Yeah, but just before you answer that question, I believe that we have another viewer on the line. David, I believe, from Tamale. David, if you can hear me.
Yeah, my brother.
Yes. Good evening, David. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, my brother.
Yes. So,
yeah,
can go ahead.
We are talking about housing in Ghana.
Okay.
And our leaders, current leaders, have failed us because some of us, the youth, got attracted and interested in their loan for rent program or manifesto they brought out. So some of us rallied behind them, all in the name of helping us to pay our rent, so that when we get jobs to do, we repay them in future. But my brother, we are very sorry for this government disappointing us, not even talking about it. My senior man there talking, I can see he's so emotional, and he should be, because it is very, very disappointing for a whole state to use the youth in politicking to get votes and get into power and ignore us for rallying behind them on this promise. Thank you, my brother.
All right. Thank you very much, David. And yeah, so just before maybe you comment on that, well, would you want to respond to the previous question? Yes, whether there are any plans that GREPA has for young people?
So for us at GREPA, we're doing all we can to make sure we address this issue some way, somehow. Just about a month ago, we had the Africa Real Estate Conference and Expo at the Labadi Beach Hotel, where there were various stakeholders from government. Even the minister was there, the Minister for Western Housing was there, and other, there were reps from UN were there. And we are ready to partner the government as much as possible to be able to put up these affordable housing. Once they also partner with us by way of releasing lands and creating the necessary environment for us to be able to, so because our association is made up of developers, we have agents, realtors, and so many stakeholders in the real estate space. So we are more than ready to partner with government to help solve this situation.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Sule, I believe, is on the line. Hello, Sule.
Yes, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah,
thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I would like to just contribute towards this again.
Yes.
I would say that, you know, some government projects are working.
Okay.
Yeah, some government projects are working, like the public servants housing loan scheme. The executive secretary, when he came on this project, in less than 2 weeks, I was able to access my loan. And I think government things are there whereby we don't know. The loan that I'll be giving, even though it's not all that much, that is what I'm expecting, but I think it's solving part of my problem for me. I was able to get 40,000 Ghana cedis, which what I'll be paying is almost 3,000 on it. So I think, and which I never knew. If I were to be aware of this project, I think I would have started collecting this loan from the day that I have started collecting loan from other banks. And the loan is very good. It's very good. So I encourage the public and other people to access this and start doing their projects.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sule. I saw a look of incredulity on your face.
Did he say, which loan is he talking about?
I'm sure he's probably referring to...
It's a liar. I was with the minister. He says he's lying. This is when we are doing program like this, then serial callers are there calling and saying something just to hype their government. When did he get the loan? Who gave the loan to him? How did he access it? Now that is criminal. It's inhabilitation for NPP people or what? Where did he get the money from? That is a serial caller. I am saying that yes, we've met a minister, and he knows they are in the process of getting it out. So when did he access that loan? You see, when we are talking about national issues, you see them using politics and calling in, and you got 40,000. Who gave you? And the money is not given to you. It will be paid to the landlord. So where did you get the money? Which bank? Who gave it to you? Look at these people.
I don't know. It's quite an emotive subject here, but it's really, really, really worrying. I mean, the times we find ourselves in. But I don't know. We have a few more minutes to wrap up this conversation. I'll let Mr. Opoku take a deep breath before finally find out here. But there's this one message that has come through. Okay, Akosua Frimpong, I got your message. She says that this is a great show on TV, my very first time of watching. So we'll encourage you to watch it a bit more and tell your friends to watch us too on Metro TV. So keep up the good work for God and country. Thank you very much, Akosua, and keep watching. Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time here, but it's been great talking to you, and we just hope that the stakeholders and duty bearers would take note of some of these things, and let's hope that things change in the future. But this, the Homeowners Show, has been brought to you by kind courtesy of the First National Bank, Ghana, and they are asking you, how can we help you? And supported by CBC Properties. CBC Properties, your home of affordable lands and properties. Major enterprises, if it's not quality, it's not major. And Sub-Saharan fashion, great shirts for men with integrity, as you can see my shirt. Business and Financial Times, Ghana's most outstanding business newspaper, and Construction TV Online, best in building and construction news online. Mr. Frederick Opoku, Secretary General of the National Tenants Union of Ghana, thank you so much for coming through, and I hope that we get the opportunity to do this again. And Mr. Prince Nketia, representative of the Ghana Real Estate Professionals Association, GREPA, thank you also for passing through, and we hope that we get the opportunity to talk some more.